On. Okay, we are live for another episode of the Marketers Roundtable. Today we got Lorraine. We were Facebook friends for a minute. I've been following her. I think I bought one of her programs a while ago, and I wanted to get her on the podcast because she has a story, right? She was, correct me if I'm wrong on any parts of this, but you were going to college. You had kids, and essentially you wanted to you started a writing agency while you were in school, right? And then you were eventually able to transition into a full-time entrepreneur. And then since then you've done over $2 million in revenue between your writing agency, your digital products, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Awesome. So when you introduce yourself to people, how do you introduce yourself?
Oh, it depends. Depends on where I'm at and who I'm talking to. Some days I'm the stay-at-home mom and I support my partner in his career. Other days I might say that I'm homeschooling mama, and then sometimes I talk to people and I'm an investor or I'm an online business owner. So to me that's the beauty of being in entrepreneurship. I don't have to, associate myself just with my business or just with my job or my career. There's a bunch of different things that I'm afforded to do through having my own business. So I enjoy that part the most, I would say.
Awesome. So I want to talk about the journey from 0 to 2 million, right? So I guess the writing agency was your first entrepreneurial venture.
I wouldn't say that. I've been dabbling in things since I was, a teenager.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, though, the thing that I started when I was a teenager is what I now do as well, because I've been writing since I was in high school. So that hasn't changed.
Right. Yeah. Right. I hate writing. Oh my God. That's such a pain, but that's probably why your business has been successful, because there's a huge need for it. So now what did it look like in the first, let's say 12 months, first year of launching the writing agency while you were in college?
Well, I actually started this business because I was trying to make $140 to keep my kids in daycare over the summer, so that I could return back to pharmacy school. So it put me in a unique situation because, here I am, I'm needing to make just a little side money. And within a couple of weeks of, starting to post my ads, I was making at least $1,000 a week. Now I was working my ass off for that $1,000 a week, but I was making good money. So one of the things I had to overcome was, how do I go back to school when the fall comes? I'm making all this money. I don't want to let it go. What do I have to do in order to be able to maintain myself in pharmacy school and also continue this business? So that's when I started my outsourcing journey. So about 3 months in, I was already thinking hey, I can't do all this work by myself. Let me figure out, how to solve this problem. So I would say within the first year, we were outsourcing and just kind of grew from there. But that's what the first 12 months for me looked like, was trying to figure out how I was going to fit, going back to school, raising, 1-year-olds at that point, twin daughters who were 1 year old, and how I was going to, keep everything afloat. So that's where I was year one.
So, and year one, was that your year you went from 0 to 6, or how long did it take to just go from 0 to 6?
It took me, I would say about 3 years to get to 6 figures. And one of the reasons why I feel like that was the case is because I had so much on my plate. Whereas when you are kind of just focused on the business, you can see problems, you can act on those things, and you can begin to fix those. Right. For me, I was relying on the breaks from school to be able to do those things. So I might be looking at problems for 4 or 5 months between fall or the fall semester and Christmas break, and looking at those issues and kind of brainstorming, figuring out, okay, how I'm going to implement these things. And then I might have 3 weeks of implementation of Christmas break to implement these things into my business. So I would say it was about the first 3 years that it took me. Okay, how do I get from ground zero to 6 figures? And that's
right. Right. And then for like your marketing, I think you mentioned ads. So you've always like ran ads. It wasn't like organic. You don't like do any sort of organic marketing. It's just all ads.
Well, not at first, because my background in ad sales. I did Google marketing, built websites for local businesses before I decided to go back to pharmacy school. So that's what I know. I've also been a background in radio sales. So the ad world is what I know. So when I started off, I was not doing paid ads. I was doing ads on sites like Craigslist and Upwork and those types of things, because I understood that if I put myself in places where people were actually looking for my service, that the conversion would be much higher. So I always recommend, when you're thinking about starting a new business and you got to figure out where you find customers, you either got to look at organic marketing, or if you are going to dibble and dabble in that paid market, then you need to put yourself into positions where people are looking for you. That's active marketing, not passive marketing like billboards and branding activities and those types of things. I want to be where I know people are looking to place an order for the service that I have, and that conversion rate is going to be much higher. I'm going to get more bang for my buck.
Yeah, I like that. That makes a lot of sense. And it's like Russell Brunson is kind of who I learned a lot from. And in his book, he talks about how there's 3 types of people online, 3 types of traffic. There's cold, there's warm, and there's hot. And when you're dealing with search, I start off with YouTube, like I told you before the podcast. I start off with YouTube, and with YouTube, it's literally, it's not a social media platform. Some people might get that confused. It's not a social media platform. Google and YouTube, not social media. So with those platforms, people are like actively searching for problems. So it was like super easy for me. I came in the world thinking entrepreneurship was easy, because like I was just posting videos on specific problems and I was just getting sales easily. And then when I started to try and get like clients from my agency, it was a little harder, because I was doing organic marketing and trying to sell to people who aren't necessarily looking for a problem. They're on Facebook trying to keep up with their friends and family. So it's a little bit of a grind when you're doing the organic. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, I do say, before you move on from that actually social media, whether it's TikTok, IG, or Facebook, they're also search engines, and people also do come to those social media platforms to solve problems as well. So that's why I've been so successful with organic marketing, because I have understood that Facebook, those social media platforms are just like platforms like YouTube or Google. Whether people realize it or not, they're still coming to social media to search and see solutions to their problems.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I can see where sometimes people do that, like with hashtags. I know, like if my friends are looking for somewhere to eat, like to take a girl out on a date or something, it's like hashtag like what's some restaurants in Baltimore or DC.
Exactly. So wherever there's a search bar, you start thinking of it as, okay, people are coming to search for specific things, and a lot of times they're problems. So if I want to post on social media and I want to get traffic back to my offers and back to my deals and all that good stuff, don't want to have to spend a whole ton of money to do that, then I need to position myself in places where people are looking for me, looking for my content.
So now, did you ever get to a point? So now, I'm sure that your agency probably gets traffic organically, like just through SEO, while people are searching, because it's probably been around for a while now, right?
Yes. So since 2013, we've been pretty much all online since 2017, I would believe.
Okay. And so when did you start to venture off into the world of selling digital products? Because I know you sell a lot of ebooks and like little video trainings, et cetera, et cetera. When did you start selling that?
right? So this happened in the 2020 when the pandemic happened. So I've been kind of doing services and talking to business owners about how to like automate and outsource and scale the businesses for a while now. But I didn't fully, jump on teaching full time until 2020. So that's when I started doing like some of my courses, like 100K in 90 days, how to build landing pages that convert, those sorts of things that I felt that business owners needed, especially when the pandemic hit and a lot of people, they were losing income streams left and right. So being able to have something to fall back on is something that I definitely believe in. And even if you have the 9 to 5, you definitely need to have, some different sources of income. So in 2020, I really took that on and started to teach and coach my audience.
And you have like a huge Facebook group. I don't know if that's where you get most of your traffic from and where you're getting most of your sales from. I know you probably it's probably both between your personal profile and your group. But like, how did you grow that group so big? Because it's like 11,000 people in there, I think, is what I saw.
Well, I have several groups that have a few. That one's, I think, is the largest one so far with 11. I have a few others that are like 4 or 5 thousand.
Wow.
But my traffic mostly comes from my video. So Reels, TikTok, that's where a lot of that traffic is coming from. So basically, I try to give as much value as I can when I do those types of videos. And then the call to action is, hey, either, take a look at this digital product or come join my group and we can, hang out and learn some things.
So, you post a ton of content. Sometimes your content is about being a mom. Sometimes it's about being an entrepreneur. So many people like just overthink content, right? But yours is like it's strategic. It's not all over the place, but it's not all just around one thing. So like when you're creating content, right, and you do it daily. So like, how do you go about creating content? Just like, do you pre-schedule your posts? Do you do it all on the fly? And then like, what are you thinking about before you create that piece of content?
I wish I could say I was the type of person that had like a content plan and schedule it out and stuff like that. But my brain just doesn't work that way.
Same here.
Like I'm not interested in scheduling things, and I'm just not interested in. I don't even show up every day, which is most people don't understand because they see me so much. I am not online every day. But as far as the content, most of it is on the fly. I might have some type of like strategy. So for this week, I'm a little burnt out. I want to spend a little bit more time with my kids and my new baby. So what I'm concentrating on is doing duets on, TikTok. And, I've got a bunch of content in my phone already from, my kids and traveling and stuff like that. So doing some voiceover type videos. And I've got a couple of promos that I'm working with this week for some products. So those things are, low effort for me. So not so much a plan or a content plan or am I scheduling it, but I know how I feel, in this time period. And I'm going to make that strategy for that.
So what does your day look like? Well, first off, how big is your team for like, I guess both your writing agency and your digital product business?
Okay, so let me run down the team for the agency first. So I have 2 BAs, 3 assistants, and I believe 17 writers right now.
Wow.
So that's and then a team of 5 who handle special projects. So what is that, about 30? A team of 30 right now. And then for the digital content, I just hired somebody to help with the reposting between different platforms. So for now, it's me and her.
Right. Now, so I think I asked 2 questions. It was, what's your team? Oh, what's your what does your day look like then? Since you have so many people on your team, and I guess most of your sales are all just through posting content and taking people to a sales funnel. What does your day-to-day look like?
So I wake up, it depends. My partner is in the movie industry. So whenever he wakes up, that could be 3 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning. By the time, if he's up, I'm up for the most part. So I'm getting the baby together, washing her up in the morning, taking care of my hygiene and all that good stuff, showering, waking the kids up because they're here with me 24/7. We homeschool, so they're here, getting them up, getting the dog out. Then I'll take a look at social media and kind of see what the vibe is today. I always look back in my memories because I love to repurpose. I don't like to waste anything. I'm going to go back, look at my memories, see if there's some content that I can use, maybe revamp, repost, or whatever for that day. I then take some TikToks and Reels that I posted on TikTok maybe a few days ago. I'll start downloading a few of those and then repost them on IG and Facebook. And then I'm just up, and I kind of gauge what my followers are doing in the mornings. So where are they? Are they busy? Are they online? So you might see me post something funny or post a good morning or something like that to kind of get them, riled up and responsive. And then I just kind of, post based on, what I feel people need. Should I have a content calendar? Would it be more effective? Maybe. But
if it's broke, don't fix it, right?
Right. So I don't really have a plan or strategy of what I'm selling that day. It's just pretty much what people need. So drawing them back to different pieces of content and stuff like that. I'm more so looking for the shares more so than, hey, can you come buy this or buy that? Because I'm going to educate regardless. That's just in me. I'm going to talk about my business journey, or I'm going to talk about things that I struggle with. A lot of people think I'm just preaching, to other people. No, these notes and these things that I write about business and about life and about kids and stuff, those are notes to myself that I choose to share with other people.
Right.
So I would say that's pretty much most of my day.
So, all right. So I like to keep it real on this podcast, right? So you mentioned struggles. So what are some of those like struggles that you share? Being a mom, a wife, and an entrepreneur.
The struggles, just balancing it all the time. Especially as a mom, and especially when you're a new mom. My twin daughters are 10 years old, and now I have a 3-month-old baby. So rearranging, your time to kind of fit the needs of your family can be kind of a struggle sometimes, especially when you value your work. Everybody wants to value their work and with their effort. And as a mother that is, so involved with the rest of the household, homeschooling and new baby, and my mom's here, and my partner's very involved with different things. Sometimes you can feel a little, I would say, unnoticed because you're bending, to everybody's needs, and sometimes you forget your own. So that's a struggle. I've always been very upfront with being a part of the neurodivergent population. So, anxiety, ADD, those types of things, those are struggles. Because like we just talked about, for me, a content plan will never fly. I can write something out. Matter of fact, if I write it down and I say I'm going to do it, you can best believe it's not going to get done.
Yeah, I'm like that too.
I can't really do that. I tend to think more big picture. So my list and my to-do list are like, for instance, I have one on my wall right now on one of my whiteboards, and it's just 2022, and it's got a number by it, 1.4 million. And it has 5 or 6 different things that I want to focus on for the year, not day to day, not hour to hour, for the year. So that could be a struggle for some people because they always try to want to fit into those molds. They want to be neurotypical, and that's not me. I'm not going to be able to follow those types of organization skills.
Yeah, I have my marketing agency is called Expert Funnel Incubator, and a lot of the people we work with over there are transformational authors. And I had someone. Are you familiar with human design at all?
Yeah.
Okay, so I had someone actually look at my human design chart, And just what that essentially, I'm not about to go into what he told me, but what essentially it helped me understand is that people are different. Like I'm big on like just being authentic to who you are and just doing what works for you. Because yeah, for me, I'm still trying to figure out this content calendar thing. I think I'm gonna eventually have to. But like right now, when I just have thoughts, I just need to post it and it just works out. You know, one post might not do well, but another post will. But people are seeing it and they're telling me like, yeah, I really love your posts. They're inspirational, and that's just what works for me.
Right.
But but what works for me doesn't work for everyone else. People are different, and uh, a lot of entrepreneurs, they follow other entrepreneurs because they want to learn from them. And you listen to this guy, and he's telling you do this, and it's like you're trying, it's just not working for you. But it's like you really just need to be authentic to you, and that's what I got from what you were saying.
Right. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So now we talk struggles. So if let's say things came crashing down, right? You lose your team, et cetera, right? Worst case scenario, you got your skills and you got your knowledge, right? How do we build back up?
How do we build like that? Well, the email
Yeah.
list, Almighty email list is definitely on point. I can get
Mm,
in contact with my customers at any point in time
mm,
via that, plus text marketing as well. But
mm,
the premise of the business, which is um, service-based business, outsourcing, automating the busy work, that can be done with plenty of different models. For example, probably about 4 or 5 years ago, I was working with a guy who did like junk removal.
mm,
And I wanted to see if my business model would work with any type of service-based business.
mm,
So that's what we did. We got together, decided we were going to do a mattress removal service.
mm,
And within, I would say, 6 or 7 days, we had recouped the money that we had invested into the websites and the Google ads. And within the next 2 weeks, we had did over $2,000 or $3,000 of revenue. So I'm not
mm,
really afraid to lose it all.
mm,
One of the reasons why I have this business is because I lost it all. I went back to pharmacy school. One of the reasons I did because I was laid off from a job that I had
mm,
within sales marketing. So I decided I was going to just go back to pharmacy school. My mom is
mm,
also a pharmacist, and that's what I knew. So losing it all, sometimes we think that it's losing something, but what I've learned is that sometimes, whether you believe in God or the universe or what have you,
mm,
sometimes things have to be taken from you in order for you to receive something bigger.
mm. That's powerful. So now I know you talk a lot about automation and outsourcing. I saw what your landing page for the right six figures ebook, and I saw one of your students on that. I actually follow her. I can't even remember her name, but she scaled to 10K with one of your programs because of what you taught her about essentially outsourcing and automating your business. So how does a business begin to automate and scale? Because like I've been talking to a lot of like big, guys doing seven figures, multiple millions of dollars in their business. And they all say like, if you want to scale, you need infrastructure, you need people in place, you need systems. So how do you begin to help people build those systems so that they can actually scale?
Well, it's just like we just talked about before. You gotta be authentic. So my system might not look like somebody else's system because I'm also
Mm,
working against my mental. Okay, so you mentioned before that you're not into scheduling things, and
mm,
same here. So I hire people who are good at that because I'm
mm,
not going to going to do that. Now, somebody else who's very organized, they might get to skip that step, but for me,
mm,
that's very important. So I always tell other business owners to take a look at your day, take a look at the things that you do in your business, and see things or where things are, and point out the ones or pay special attention to the ones that you're doing over and over and over and over again.
mm,
You cannot afford to do something over and over and over and over and over again, because 9 times out of 10 that's going to suck up all the energy you have to find new clients.
mm,
very hard to be the technician in your business, the one who's doing the actual jobs, and be out trying to find new business. And what I've learned is, yeah, you can have the funnels, you can pay ads, you can do all that stuff, but that's the main thing you need to have your eye on as a business, because nobody is going to promote it like you're going to promote it.
Mhm. Someone in the comments, they said Lorraine is a beast. She helped me make 5K months in the process of making more. I can't see the name on StreamYard, but
Yay.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Um, so what are some, like, top three lessons for people just starting out, who, I guess, let's just say, want to go from 0 to 6?
0 to 6.
Yeah, 0 to 6
I would
figures.
say the first lesson is you cannot build a house overnight. You can't build a house all at one time. You're gonna have to lay the foundation. You're gonna have to, put up drywall. You have to lay bricks, brick by brick. Some people look at people who are more established and have been around for a long time and believe that it's an overnight thing. Like I'm gonna be successful overnight, and then that anxiety and that feeling can lead to depression. Um, I don't care if you're automating, if you're outsourcing, whatever, it's still going to be a process. And that is literally my job in my business now. My job in my business is to make my team's life easier. So if they come to me with an issue, then I'm looking at Zapier, I'm looking at different programs. I'm figuring out, okay, do we need another VA here to see how they can overcome that issue? And that's what you're going to be doing in your business. It's not, even any given month, I could go back and add more automations or something to my business if I feel like there's a bottleneck there. So do not feel like these things are built overnight. Start with the first thing that you need to, or the first problem you need to solve, and then move on from there. The second thing I would, going from that right into this, if you are a business owner, your job every day is to wake up and solve problems, period. That's your job, is to wake up and solve problems. So if you're the type of person that is going to feel some type of way, you're going to quit every 2 seconds because you run into a problem, you think it's going to be from point A to Z with nothing in between, you're going to have some issues. So be ready to solve problem. In my family, we say nothing is ever in a straight line. Nothing. You plan it one way in your head, and there's going to be all these detours and all these hills to climb and battles to fight in between. So don't feel some type of way that you're being singled out by the universe or whatever because you're running into problems. I remember the time where I would wake up at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning and already had problems. Like, like I have risen. It's time to order. And when I say problems, I mean like whole websites down and orders, 500 orders deleted, or the time last year we went viral on TikTok and we crashed our servers and we had 1,000 new orders overnight and they were nowhere to be found. And you know what I'm saying? So there's just problems. They're coming. So brace yourself for them. And the more you exercise that talent of thinking about those problems and problem solving, the easier it will get. The more confident you will become in your expertise. And the third one, I don't even know. There's so there's so
right.
many.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways you could, so many lessons you probably learned through your experience.
Third one would probably be don't put so much emphasis on money that you forget the time. A lot of people do that. They don't understand that, okay, time is the only factor in the equation that you will never get, ever. Ever. It never comes back. So if you're an entrepreneur and your expertise is over here, do not be afraid to hire somebody to be over there because you're afraid that you're going to spend that money. You're going to waste so much more money trying to cut corners and save yourself the time, because time is not an infinite resource that we have, unfortunately.
Right. Man, real talk. Oh my God. She said a lot of truths in that. Now, who do you, besides experience, like who do you get your business acumen from?
Oh, I would say it started off with my family.
Mm,
One of my aunts owned a business in health records information systems management growing up. My parents owned a business. We had a shop that did Greek paraphernalia for Black sororities and
mm,
fraternities. I remember going to like trade shows and things at a very young age,
mm.
selling. I was running the cash register back in, and you might be a little young, Desmond. I'm not quite sure.
Right.
I was running the cash register back when we had to do like this with the credit card machine and call
Right,
authorization. I was what 9, 10 or something at that time.
right,
So a lot of my business acumen comes from that.
mm,
It's in the blood. My grandparents, even back in the day, they owned their houses in the two houses next door, so they
mm,
were always hustling some type of way. But I do follow a lot of people that I look up to. And then other than that, I would say just being in sales for a long time. I have been lucky enough to been trained by some of the top agencies or the top retail agencies in the world. The
mm,
first one being Dell. I worked from them all the way through college, so that sales process was ingrained very early in
mm.
me.
Right. Yeah, for personally, I just had to learn just by starting my own businesses, but like getting that experience from like jobs. I know a lot of people like to like talk crap about jobs, but having a job is not bad. Like it's not bad as long as you like what you're doing and you can learn a ton. There's a guy named Derek Grace. I think it's Derek Grace. He got like gold grills, tattoos all over his face. You might have seen him. I think he's from Atlanta. You're from Atlanta, right?
Yep. Hmm.
I think he might be from Atlanta. But he talks about like with a job, the whole goal should be to infiltrate, educate, and evacuate. Right? You get the job, you learn, and then you pretty much get out the game.
Right.
So a job can teach you a ton. Now last thing, networking. So I'm big on, like, right now I'm trying to scale to seven figures, and my whole thing is like I'm collaborating my way to the top, right? There's a saying that goes, it's not what you know but who you know. So like, how is networking something, I know like Atlanta, for black people, like that's kind of like the that there's a lot of black business owners over there. So like, how has networking really helped you in your business, or is it just like building teams and just direct response marketing is how you grew, whereas networking and collaboration helped you at all to scale your business?
Oh yeah, definitely. Networking has helped me in my business. I think sometimes when we think about networking, we think about who you know, and somebody's going to hand off a job or a sale to your certain that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, networking is just learning from the people around me.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in sales for these different organizations, I learned never to try to reinvent the wheel. Go
Mm-hmm.
in, you see who's performing, you see who's top 10%, you see who's getting the presidential awards and all that other stuff. You need to be getting next to them and figuring out what it is that they do so that you can incorporate that into your own personality. So I'm constantly looking. I'm always watching. Even if you think I'm not online, I'm online. I'm gathering information. I'm reading things. I'm seeing how things work. Those types of things. So I'm always networking and learning from other people.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, guys, I hope you guys learned a lot, similar to me, because I learned a ton. We covered so much. We talked, there's a saying, it goes, you don't business life and pretty much personal life are the same thing, right? You don't have business problems, you just have personal life that translates into your business.
Right.
And we talked about how to build a business based on your personality and being authentic to who you are. That's kind of like the number one thing I learned. I definitely had some struggles around that, and you gave me some clarity. So I learned a lot, and I really appreciate you for coming on this show and dropping game to my audience.
Awesome. Well, if you're watching now and you have learned something or something that you want to discuss after this, definitely feel free to inbox me and I'll send
Mm.
you in whatever direction uh, you need to be in.
Of course. And then like what are all your links?
So you can take a look at my digital courses at Gumroad, GUMROAD.com/Lorraine Kamisha. You can also take a look at my 6-figure blueprint for my writing agency. That's at Write, WRITE, 6figures, SIX figures.com. So you can take a look at that as well. And yeah, follow my TikTok. I like to entertain people while also educating people as well. That is Lorraine Kamisha on TikTok as well.
Awesome, guys. If you're on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. Facebook's Ask Any Questions. Lorraine is in the group now, so she can get to you guys. And with that being said, thank you for tuning in. Peace.